How do we raise a child who has a positive body image? And I'm not going to Pollyanna this and tell you it's, step 1, step 2, step 3, because the reality is raising kids with good body image in our society today, especially with the presence of social media, is most definitely getting harder. Also, we have societal norms that tell us and our children that the normalized body type is thin and fit, and the normalized eating pattern is a healthy one. And so we and our kids are getting these messages day in and day out that in order to be healthy, and I'm putting air quotes around that word, we have to be eating a certain way and we have to look a certain way. So that creates a lot of pressure for you and for your child.
Welcome to the Nourished Child Podcast, a show about childhood nutrition, feeding kids, and dealing with the ups and downs of growing a healthy child. Here's your host, registered dietitian and childhood nutrition expert, Jill Castle.
Hey friends, I'm Jill Castle, a pediatric dietitian, mom to 4 kids, and host of this podcast. I started this podcast in 2016 as a way to help families and healthcare professionals learn more about nutrition and feeding kids. My goal has always been to make nourishing your families easier through breaking down science into understandable concepts you can put into practice right away, and shedding light on and improving the emotional well-being of kids through feeding and food. You can always go deeper on my website, theNourishedChild.com, where I have resources for children ages birth through teen. I'm always so grateful you're here, and I hope you enjoy the show.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Nourished Child Podcast. It's just me today answering reader questions. In fact, I have a new feature for the podcast that I hope you will take advantage of. You can ask me your questions through an easy voice recorder that I've installed on my website. Just go to thenourishedchild.com, hit the podcast tab at the top, and that will take you to a page where you will find a voice recorder. All you have to do is type your first name. You can type your whole name if you want. I'm not going to be sharing names of people here, but I will be sharing your questions and answering them live in real time. So I'm super excited about doing this. The podcast will still come out every 2 weeks as usual. But as we move into summer, you're going to get more of these. And I hope you ask me the questions that you want answered, because I want to answer them. Okay, let's go to our very first reader question, and that is, Dear Jill, I'm wondering if you can help me. I have a 9-year-old daughter. She's a picky eater. This week, when I weighed her to know how much Motrin to give her, she told me that she doesn't like being weighed because it makes her feel bad about herself. It feels like she's being judged. Are there books that I can read to her that will help her work her way through this and have a healthier body image? So I just want to thank this listener and reader of my articles and my newsletter for responding and asking this question, because I think it's such an important question and is weighing on a lot of parents' minds. How do we raise a child who has a positive body image? And I'm not going to Pollyanna this and tell you it's, step 1, step 2, step 3, because the reality is raising kids with good body image in our society today, especially with the presence of social media, is most definitely getting harder. Also, we have societal norms that tell us and our children that the normalized body type is thin and fit, and the normalized eating pattern is a healthy one. And so we and our kids are getting these messages day in and day out that in order to be healthy, and I'm putting air quotes around that word, we have to be eating a certain way and we have to look a certain way. So that creates a lot of pressure for you and for your child. Then on top of that, kids have and feel, especially school-age kids, they feel this pressure to fit in. And this is really a normal stage of development. Kids, in terms of their social, emotional development, they want to be the same as their peers. They don't want to look different. They don't want to eat different. They don't want to carry a different backpack. They don't want to have a different lunch. They want to be the same. And so if the same is this normalized body type, it creates a friction there. And it can call into question a child's self-worth, body image, obviously, and self-esteem. And then on top of that, this whole situation gets further complicated when parents have their own struggles with accepting their bodies or their own struggles with accepting other people's bodies, especially when they're not the normalized body type. So when I answer these questions, I want to provide a little bit of research background to you as much as I can. And I found 2 research studies that I thought were pertinent to this issue. The first one, and I'm just going to briefly go through both of these so you have some background knowledge, but the first one is entitled, What Do Children Think of Their Perceived and Ideal Bodies? Appeared in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health in 2021. So this study aimed to understand preschoolers' body image. And what they did was offer 4 different child figures, so drawings, ranging in BMI or body mass index, ranging in size. Let's put it a little nicer. They looked at 395 children between the ages of 4 and 6. More than half were boys, 54%. And these children selected what they thought their own bodies looked like and what they thought an ideal body looked like. And then they had to explain why they picked these bodies. So the researchers found that these kids tended to underestimate their body size, and many of them desired slimmer bodies, especially girls and the older participants, the ones who were around 6 years of age. Most children at this age showed body satisfaction, especially boys and younger children. So those 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, and boys, they were satisfied with their bodies. They liked their bodies.
Kids change a lot. Their nutrition needs, eating habits, and food preferences do too. So much so, it can be hard to keep up. The Nourished Child, a website designed for parents who want more nutrition education, helps parents like you get crystal clear on raising good eaters. We've cracked the code on nourishing the whole child, whether you're raising a baby, a teen, or a child with health concerns. Our nutrition school and parent education programs help you get the inside scoop on food and nutrients, positive food parenting, and building self-motivated, autonomous kids who are good eaters. Visit thenourishedchild.com today.
Then the researchers wanted to understand why children chose their own perceived body size and understand what were the underpinnings of this. And these ideal body choices they found were not always explained by our societal ideals of beauty, for example, but they were more likely to be explained by physical ability, desire to grow up, their mother's comments, and nutrition. Overall, though, children this age have limited body awareness. And that's interesting because it does suggest that body image may not yet even be fully formed in preschoolers. And that's related to their stage of cognitive development. They have not made distinctions between differences yet in terms of body size. So this is good news. And the reason why I wanted to highlight this study is because you have an opportunity to instill messaging, philosophies, and attitudes that promote body satisfaction. Things like all bodies are good bodies, or no two bodies are the same. We're all different. So for those of you out there who have very young children, this is your golden opportunity to start that language, to start supporting your child's healthy body image development. Because remember, younger children are happy with their bodies, but something happens when they start to get around age 6, and that changes. The second study I wanted to review with you is entitled Correlates of Body Dissatisfaction in Children, and it was published in the Journal of Pediatrics in 2016. And the purpose of this study was to assess body dissatisfaction among children between ages 9 and 14 years, and to understand the factors that underlie wanting a thinner or larger shape. So they looked at over 1,500 pre-adolescent children. 51% of these kids were girls. And overall, this is what they found. More than half of girls wanted a thinner shape compared to 36% of boys, or a third of the boys. More boys wanted a larger shape compared to girls. And most of these kids who might have been in a larger body were unsatisfied with their body. Whereas, in comparison, those children who were smaller in size, most of the girls anyways, and about 42% of the boys were satisfied with their body. So what correlates with body dissatisfaction? And they looked at 4 different body dissatisfaction contrasts. The first one was wanting a slightly thinner body, a much thinner body, a slightly larger body, and a much larger shape. And they found that what underlies these different levels of dissatisfaction were age, gender, the size of the child, what they perceive their size to be, and their self-esteem. The authors of this study concluded that the high rate of body dissatisfaction among children between ages 9 and 14 suggests that the way we approach preventing body image problems in our society needs to be improved. And they also said that because the results were so different between boys and girls, we need to take into account the sex differences when designing prevention programs. So what does this all mean? Again, I'm just going to reinforce the golden opportunity you have as a parent to change how you talk about bodies in your home, to change the way you talk about other people's bodies, the way that you talk to your child about their body, and the way you talk about your own body. You don't have to wait on this. You can start this stuff early. And that is truly what will help shape your child's body satisfaction and body image. Now, I have a couple of previous episodes that you can turn to and listen to that I think will be really helpful and additive to this episode. My interview with Dr. Chris Madsen, she's a pediatrician, and she did a study on measuring the BMI in children in the school setting. That is episode number 127. You can go and listen to her speak about her research. It's very fascinating. Also, I interviewed Charlotte Markey, and she is an author, but also a research scientist. I interviewed her in episode number 122, and we talked about her book called The Body Image Book for Girls. This is a good book to have if you have a daughter whose age is 12 years and up. It's designed for your daughter to read the book, and I think optimally, if you can read it with her, even better. The other episode where I interviewed Charlotte Markey was around the topic of her most recent book, which is called Being You, the Body Image Book for Boys. It's also on the podcast. That interview is episode number 162. And again, that book is designed for your son to read, and it's designed for boys ages 12 years and up. Good resources to have on hand that really showcase the science, but are really practical. Will give you lots of language you can use with your child, and will give your child a perspective and an understanding of what's going on in that pre-adolescent phase with their bodies. Another good book and good resource if you have a boy is called The Boy's Body Book by Kelly Dunham. And this is for boys between ages 9 and 11 years. And then for girls, another great one is called Celebrate Your Body and Its Changes Too. And it's for girls between the ages of 8 and 12 years. And it was authored by Sonia Renee Taylor. She is also the author of Your Body Is Not an Apology, a great book for parents to read. And then last, what if you have a really young kid? I like this book called Bodies Are Cool, written by Tyler Fetter, and it's for children ages 2 to 5 years. I will include all of these book resources in the show notes, which you'll be able to go over to thenourishedchild.com/184 and be able to get these books. I'll link them all through Amazon, but you can probably find them in your library or in your local bookstore too, if you prefer that. That's it, folks, for today. Again, so grateful for you that you come and listen to this show. I hope this episode was helpful. Remember, I will be showcasing your questions and answering them, providing you a little perspective and research. Go over to thenourishedchild.com, go to the podcast page, and you can find a button where you can do a voice recording right online. And you'll have to enter your name, and they will mail that question to me. So I'll get it in my inbox, and I can start to cultivate the answers to your questions, and I'll be airing them on the podcast. Until next time, make sure you give that child in your life a loving squeeze today. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Nourished Child podcast, where the #1 goal is to help you grow a nourished child inside and out.